Hello YouTube, it's me, the Cherry Lady. After I pitted my cherries, I'm now going to make pie. The 2 quarts of cherries I pitted made 5 cups of pitted cherries. But first, let's talk about crust. I use Betty Crocker's crust mix. If you want to mix up your own crust, more power to you. I use this stuff. Roll out your bottom crust and put it in your pan. My bottom crust is ugly. No one cares, they're going to eat the pie just the same. Very important, good cooks to put 2 pats of butter in the bottom of their pies. I want to be a good cook, ergo I must put 2 pats of butter in my pie. My grandma told me that. The next thing is the cherry stuff that you're going to put in it. I like a tapioca pie. Tapioca can be found in a sack like this in your grocery store. It's usually near the pudding, although you may have to flag down a helpful grocery store employee to find it. On the back, there is a recipe for fruit pie. You can make peach, blueberry, apple, or in our case, cherry. Follow the directions, you'll be set. What tapioca is a starch generally grown in Central and South America that's dried and powdered, and it looks like that when it comes out of the bag. This has been sitting with the sugar, the cherries, and the tapioca for the 15 minutes recommended by the bag. Now, that extra cup of cherries, this only calls for 4 cups of fruit, that extra cup of cherries can be turned into a smoothie or put into your morning cereal, whatever makes you happiest. I'm going to be sure and get all the sugar and juice out of the bowl. And then I'm going to poke it over so it fills up the crust. Now this makes a pretty full, pretty deep pie. It will probably boil in your oven, so you can either put a piece of aluminum foil underneath it on the shelf below it, or you can just figure out how the self-cleaning part of your oven works. I'm putting a little more butter on top because, well, you can't really go wrong with butter. Then I'm going to take my top crust, put it over the top, and squash it down into the bottom crust. Now, many of you have seen beautiful pie demonstrations on cooking shows, on PBS or the Food Channel. Mine are not that pretty. And as I mentioned before, no one seems to mind when they eat it. If you're entering it in the fair, you might want to practice. I don't really care that much. You want to make sure that it's pretty sealed all the way around. And you want to make sure that there's a vent in the top. You'll know that your pie is done, not only because it's been in the oven for the right amount of time, but because there's juice bubbling out of the middle. Now, I've got my helpful assistant off camera. Julia, how does this pie look?
Oh, so beautiful.
And, ooh, hey, it's going to be a juicy one. I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'll have cherry pie.